Alright, so I'm going to call this an emergency video for people who play Yu-Gi-Oh! If you haven't told by some of my videos, I enjoy Yu-Gi-Oh! I enjoy it a great deal. I have on my judge shirt just for this occasion. I was getting ready to film the third part of my Yu-Gi-Oh! How to play, which I really enjoyed doing that. I always enjoyed teaching people how to play Yu-Gi-Oh! And I'm just going really in depth with those videos. Now, and the topic was going to be about the chains. And in the chains, I was going to have to talk about priority and why it exists, which is always kind of iffy because it was never in any of the real rule books, but it was just something that people who went to tournaments understood was a thing. Yesterday, Konami posted on their their official site, and if you want to look at it, I'll post the link down below, but it's on the Yu-Gi-Oh!-card.com, the official site, and it's under a new area called Advanced Rulings that talks about fast effect timing. And there's this chart that goes over stuff, which really, if you've been playing, you know 99% of what's on that chart. It explains the chain, when you can chain, how the chain resolves, stuff like that. Now, it actually took people about, I want to say, half an hour of that being out for someone to just catch on and pose the question, if I'm reading this right, it says priority can't be called? And people reread it, and sure enough, priority no longer exists. Now, for people who don't know what priority is, I'll explain what it was. Priority was when you played a card with a ignition effect. What this is a monster card that has a once per turn effect on it. The most commonly used probably up till yesterday was Rescue Rabbit. Rescue Rabbit said once per turn you could sack it and special summon 2 level 4 normal dino creatures. And this was useful because Exceed summons need 2 or more creatures, usually just 2, of the same star level. And as they were dinosaurs, there's some amazing dinosaur Exceeds that people would play Rescue Rabbit, sack it, bring out the dinos, Exceed into these incredibly potent dino Exceed monsters. And they were topping a lot of tournaments. And actually, a lot of top decks ran off this priority. Now, if something had priority, such as Rescue Rabbit, when you played it, you would say that you call priority on the effect, meaning that your effect would be the first on the chain, therefore resolved last. And unless they negated the effect, or they negated negated the summons, if they negated the summons, then the effect wouldn't go off. But anything that would say just destroy it, the effect would still resolve. So if I played my what's another good one? Blackluster Soldier. If I played my Envoy at the beginning, it said once per turn I could remove, a creature from play. So if I special summoned him, called priority in the effect to remove something from play. In response, they trap hole it and destroy it. The trap hole resolves first, blowing the creature up. That effect is still in the stack and still resolves. Alright? And that was the key to most priority decks, is they would play the card, call priority, and they would get the effect 95% of the time, because the opponent really could not stop it. And there were so many decks that had to be built with effects that would negate summons and negate effects that would stop this priority crap from happening. And that's how most of the decks had to be built. That's why there are so many solemn warnings and solemn judgments. It's because it's a speed 3. It negates summons. It negates that effect, and it stops the monster, but at a very steep cost, because it basically outright said no. So what this does is, the way it's now termed, is if I normal summon a creature, first I check if it has a trigger effect. Trigger effect is different than a ignition effect. Ignition, you have to call that it's being used. So I have to say I'm using this effect. Trigger effects state when they happen. Most monarchs are trigger effects when this creature is normal summoned. Or when this creature is tribute summoned, sorry. Black Rose Dragon says when this creature is synchro summoned. Those occur when they are summoned. And though with Black Rose Dragon, yes, you can call whether or not you're going to use the effect, it's still a trigger summon because it occurs, that effect occurs when it's synchro summoned. But ignition effects are usually termed once per turn. So it doesn't happen when they first hit. So people would call priority, so they would go off when they first hit. So it would give it that boost of speed. But now it goes to summon. Then anything that happens as a direct cause of that summon. So a continuous spell or trap that might trigger. Or a trigger effect from that monster that might occur. Then it goes from there directly down to, I have to remind myself actually, this is still new how they put it. Then the turn player can activate a fast effect. A fast effect is anything with speed spell 2 or higher. However, ignition effects are not speed spell 2 or higher. They are speed 1. So you cannot activate those. Then, after that, the opponent can activate an effect in response to that summoning. Here's what's really important, is that's the last part of this, little chain of events before something else can happen. After I summon, before I can do something else, I first have to go, well, there's no trigger effect, nothing occurs because of the summon, and I'm not going to play any fast, effects. My opponent has the opportunity to activate something in response to that summon before I can do something about it. So whereas before, if I played Black Luster Soldier, special summon him, before I could call priority to get that effect. Now, I cannot call priority. My opponent uses a trap hole or torrential tribute. Torrential tribute. Blows up the creature. I'm SOL. There's nothing I can do. I can't activate the effect in response. He's gone. That's it. No more priority. You cannot call priority anymore. In fact, if I remember correctly, there are a couple forum sites, like on Pojo and Duelist Grounds, that basically say, we don't want people using priority anymore. It's not a thing. It was a confusing thing. People had difficulty wrapping their heads around it sometimes. And we're glad it's gone. Let's not bring it up again. Let's move on. But this affects a lot of decks. Dino Rabbit. First one that got hit. You can kill off that rabbit a lot easier now without that effect hitting because no priority. Mystic Piper decks are another one. He no longer has priority. Your opponent now has a chance to blow him up before the effect occurs. BLS is one. Chaos Sorcerer is one. Anything with a once per turn you can no longer call priority. This hurt like some of my discard monsters in Dark World. Trance Archfiend was a once per turn. He no longer, I can't call priority on him. Fabled Raven, can't call priority on him. But let's look at the plus side. This opens up a much broader range of cards that can be used, and a more expansive field of play for people, because you're not going to be shackled to having to run things that negate and stop priority, like the Solemns, or okay, I apologize, I didn't come that well prepared. I can't think of anything aside from those damn Solemns. But now, Bottomless Trap Hole, much more useful. Torrential Tribute, much more useful. What else did I write? CED, Compulsory Evacuation Device, much more useful. Effect Veiler, fantastic. Effect Veiler, that's on during your opponent's turn. He normal summons or he special summons. I have the opportunity to affect Valor that monster before he can do anything with it. Period. Unless it's a continuous monster effect, like say a Jinzo. Nothing. I drop Valor. That happened. Sorry. So Valors are going to be a lot more of a staple, and people are going to be able to use a lot more cards and be able to think up new ideas without priority lingering over them. It was always just this cloud that you had to prepare for, and some decks didn't work because of the priority and speed. It was really all about speed that priority gave them. And I really love this. For someone who's taught people to play Yu-Gi-Oh! For 10 years. I love this. Priority was an ass when it first really hit. And the one I always use as an example was Exiled Force. Because you play it, you call priority, you blow something up. There wasn't getting around it. It was one of the first to really abuse priority. And I remember it very well. Oh. Envoy of the beginning, Envoy of the end. Envoy of the end. That card sucked so much. Priority neuters it. Oh god, can you think we got Envoy of the end back because there's no priority? We're going to get some banned cards back because this is no longer a thing. And we're going to have new cards banned because this is no longer a thing. Ooh. 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 Now I'm thinking of it. Okay, I want you guys... Okay, if you comment, I want you to tell me what cards you think will get unbanned or unrestricted because there's no longer priority. And I want you to tell me what cards you think might get restricted or banned because there's no longer priority. I want to make sure everyone knew this. Going into your tournaments over the weekend, I know there's a lot of pre-releases this weekend. People are going to tell you this. You might not believe them. Sorry, it's true. I'll link it down below. And I want your feelings and comments on this.